Hi, I'm Jack Barazzini, and you're listening to The Secret to Stargate.
Jack.
Can you guys hear that?
Jack. Jack, it's me, Victor. Victor, it's me. Yeah, I'm here. I'm inside your brain. Hi.
Oh, great. Not this again.
Wow, look at all the space in here.
I thought I could hear you talking in the back of my head when I was trying to get my Linux machine working again, so maybe it was actually you.
That was the best sleep I've had in months, actually. Here, I'll pop back in my body now. Here.
Let's do that transfer.
There we go.
Well, you're listening to the Secret to Stargate, and as you can tell, we are talking about the 4th episode of Season 2 of Stargate Atlantis, Duet. And I have today with me Jeff Haker. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, Jack.
And Lisa Jones. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Jack.
And now evicted from my brain space, Victor Lambs. Hey, Victor.
Hi, Jack.
McKay and Lieutenant Laura Cadman are captured by a Wraith Dart, but during their rescue, Cadman's consciousness becomes trapped within McKay's body. They must learn to coexist while Zelenka tries to fix the damaged Wraith technology to release her. Cadman uses this opportunity to improve McKay's habits and even experience a date with Dr. Brown. And also Dr. what's his name?
Beckett.
Dr. Beckett, there we go. But much to McKay's dismay, simultaneously, Ronan Dex is introduced to the Atlantis and proves himself to be a valuable asset, eventually joining Shepard's team. As McKay and Cadman shared experience becomes life-threatening, they are forced to make a difficult decision. But McKay is able to find a solution, of course McKay is, using the Stargate. They are successfully separated, Ronan officially joins the team, and a potential romance blossoms between Cadman and Beckett. What are your thoughts on this episode, Jeff?
Yeah, this is another fun one. It's got good humor. It's got some good action too with the dart and shooting the dart down and all that. Some good kind of sciencey stuff, and yeah, some great humor with Ronan learning to eat with utensils. Which did they not have forks or anything on a Satita? Or I'm curious how they ate on Satita if he didn't know how to use those. But yeah, overall, it's a lot of fun. I like this one.
I imagine that his entire planet just survives off of Go-Gurt or something like that. Why he doesn't use forks.
Soylent or something.
Yeah. What about you, Lisa?
This was a super fun one. It was I'd forgotten how much humor and how much physical humor and how good David Hewlett was in this. I hate to say forgotten that, but I had. So you have the Ronan Dex storyline, which really gets him, kind of getting accustomed to Atlantis and included in the team, but it really is overshadowed by everything going on with Rodney and Beckett and Cadman and all the rest of them. So it was super fun. We laughed the entire episode, and we could talk a little bit more about whether or not it was right or not for Cadman to take over his body, which 20 years ago didn't really faze me, but evidently in 2025, there's a whole lot of controversy about that. So
I didn't even look at the online comments about this, but yeah. I can imagine people would have things to say nowadays. What about you, Victor?
Yeah, I really like this episode too. It's a fun episode. I'm glad to see we're getting kind of fun one-off episodes here. It's even though there's Wraith in it, it's not Wraith all the time. Written by Martin Garrow and directed by Peter DeLuise. So that's kind of your dream team if you want to do a funny episode. And it's an episode that could only have been made in 2004, 2005, whenever it was made, because like you said, Lisa, if they tried to make it today, it would have gone dark or really weird. And if they tried to make it in the 80s or 90s, it wouldn't, I don't think, have been as much fun as it was. So yeah, it's in that early 2000s sweet spot. Like you said, David Hewlett does a phenomenal job, and there's a lot of really interesting things about the production of this too that we'll get into, I'm sure.
Nice. Yeah, I think I commented last time that I did not like how McKay was done in the previous Atlantis episode, but I think he was perfect here. The writing was spot on.
Yeah, you really, even if you didn't like him in the last one, you're going to love him in this one.
Yeah. And it was interesting with Lieutenant Cadman, like this character is introduced in this episode because we haven't seen her before, right?
Nope.
Mm-mm.
No, and I think this is her only appearance in the show. I think she might come up in some of the books.
I think she has one more.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought, okay.
But it's funny because she's introduced and she's a major part of the episode, but you don't see her like for pretty much the entire thing. So I thought that was interesting. Like, I wonder how the actress thought about that, like being a major character, but not appearing on screen hardly at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about that was, so she's in 3 scenes, Jamie Ray Newman is, but she was on set throughout the entire production of this episode. So she was off camera, basically doing her lines as David Hewlett was acting them out. So they didn't have like a stand-in or something, trying to do the lines. She was actually, mic'd up doing her lines while David Hewlett was performing, so when they have that back and forth, it's actually the 2 actors doing it back and forth, although she's not on camera. So they mentioned how fortunate they were that they had the budget to pay her, for the entire week or so they were shooting this, rather than just, a day's worth of scenes there. So I think it really does make a big difference.
I think you could tell too that they'd spent some time together because he had to act like her, like mannerisms and everything else. So it was nice that evidently they had gotten to spend a little time together for him to do that.
Yeah, when they were shooting a scene, like he could say, "How would you walk through this door?" That sort of thing, and how would how would you deliver this line? And so it really benefits from that. And so a lot of her performance comes through, David Hewlett's body language and voice and stuff too. So, but which really sells it, because the episode could have been horrible. It could have just looked like, schizophrenic McKay, and we would have lost a lot of the humor and it would have just fallen flat, but it's lively, and I really enjoy it.
Could have been more like Michael Shanks in Lifeboat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh dear.
Yeah. David Hewlett definitely, he was definitely able to pull this off, and it really showed like his range.
Yeah.
With his comedic range.
Well, we'll get to the actual plot, but I think the best example of this is when Cadman has taken over McKay's body and is talking to Beckett in sickbay, and she flounces, or David Hewlett flounces in a very effeminate way, and then Cadman in McKay's body realizes that she's being too effeminate, and so she tries to act masculine. So it's David Hewlett playing a woman trying to act masculine. And so there's like 3 layers to it, and it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it comes in, "What you doing?" Like,
yeah, yeah.
Because she has a little crush on Beckett, so it's really funny seeing that play through David Hewlett as Cadman.
Yeah, I'm also glad they didn't do the quantum leap thing where they did some sort of narrative thing where it would be her there, but they would be seeing him. I'm glad that they just let David live all the way through.
Yeah. Like what we just saw with Stargate SG-1 with Vala and Daniel and the other people's bodies, but we saw them, but everyone else saw the other actors. Yeah. No, this was much more fun.
Yeah, and they very consciously didn't they even referenced Quantum Leap on the commentary and said, we could have had McKay look into a mirror and see Cadman, but we didn't want to do that, because that had just been done on Stargate, as you mentioned.
Right.
Yeah, you can see they were really trying to differentiate the 2 shows, and like one was going in a very dark direction and a very serious direction a lot of the time, and this one was leaning more into the humor with still some, serious, stuff in it too. But
this humor, you're right, Jeff. This humor in this episode feels, maybe because it was directed by DeLuise, but like it feels like seasons ago Stargate SG-1, like the middle range, kind of mid-seasons SG-1, which we loved. We talked about it. We loved those, and the humor and the fun, and kind of the one-off Planet of the Week type episode. So it's nice they're doing it.
Yeah. Still get some of that old Stargate feel, and I realize that I've not been on the past 2 episodes of the SG-1 that we're doing, and I swear I'm not actively avoiding. My schedule has worked out.
Sure. Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but we still get some action, some of the Peter DeLuise action, because we start basically with them, surveying a village that's been wiped out by the Wraith, but they still have their little, signposts and stuff. And then, a dart is still there, and it is, strafes them and scoops up McKay and Cadman, and they're forced to shoot it down. And Peter DeLuise got to blow up a tree, which he said on the commentary is something he tries to do in every episode. And then the dart crashes and there's a big explosion, and we get to see it's kind of like, you're like, where are they going with this? Because we've seen people scooped up in darts before, but every time we have, they've followed it back to a hive ship and done a daring raid to free them from their little cocoons on the hive ship. And in this case, you're like, oh no, the dart's destroyed. And, we get Zelenka out there with his laptop trying to figure out what he's going to do.
Yeah, it was cool to see exactly how that beaming technology on the dart works, because I don't think have they shown that? I don't think they've shown exactly what that process is before, where they're basically all stored in a pattern buffer and then offloaded once they get to the hive ship. So that was cool to see. And I also liked that we got to see like the weird H.R. Giger-esque like biomechanical insides of the dart.
And the funny thing about that too is so one of the background characters in this is a German scientist, played by Tina Jane Krohn. And, she gets to speak German throughout the episode. And as they're, it's back on Atlantis now, and they're pulling this, basic storage device out of it, and it's attached with an umbilical cord. And in German, she's saying, "This reminds me of my nephew's birth." And
that's funny.
And it's not subtitled or anything. So, you can either read it in the transcript or on the commentary, they note it. But it's just, and, of course, Zelenka gets to speak Czech in this as well. So
I always think that's fun when they let them speak other languages, and let them say whatever I guess they want.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and you get Shepard having to order to shoot this dart down because they're worried about if they get beamed back to the hive ship, then they could be revealed that Atlantis is still there, because all the Wraith think it's been destroyed at this point. So Shepard has to make the call to shoot it down instead of trying to potentially do a rescue mission, but they can't risk it at this point. So he's got to make that hard call, which is kind of nice, because we've seen him kind of not want to make those hard calls sometimes. So
yeah,
it was kind of nice to get that. He is a competent military leader, and he's not just, I'm going to I'm going to save lives every time, and there's never going to be anyone, any tragedy. So even though it's not as high stakes as like SG-1 right now, and it's not as dark, there's still some stakes. So
there's stakes that matter to the characters, which I find to be much more interesting stakes than the universe is in trouble.
Yeah.
Yes. It makes us care more too.
Exactly.
Yeah. And actually, there was going to be more action, and they had written a scene where Ronan and Shepard and Taylor go through the gates to a dart manufacturing facility, because they need to get this power transformer in order to interface with Atlantis's tech. And then they realize that, wait, Ronan's not part of the team yet. We can't have him go on off-world missions with the team. And so instead, they wrote basically the B plot of this episode, which is, Ronan kind of ingratiating himself with the other members of the expedition, which I thought, as you said, were some very nice scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that he decided to eat that Jell-O with his hands.
Yeah.
I thought it was great that they had Jell-O, because, SG-1, we had a lot of Jell-O. Yeah. And so it was kind of nice seeing Jell-O there too. And I thought it was important because, remember when Teal'c became part of SG-1, we talked about this, that, he had to kind of prove himself, and they had conversations and blah, blah, blah. And Ronan, I'm like, well, Taylor, we had some of it. She was accepted pretty quickly because of the situations they were in. So it was kind of nice with bringing in a whole new character season 2, that they're taking a little time to get us connected to him, even though he doesn't have a lot of emotion. The scenes, he's very just cut and dry. But I loved the scene with him and Weir, because she's asking him questions and he's just like, yes, no, But as opposed to the scene with Taylor, where he asked Taylor, why did you join Atlantis? Yeah. And she gave a great answer, very, I think it moved him. You can see it. But again, that's just not who he is. That's what we're learning. He's got a lot of anger towards the Wraith, but he's not going to emote about it all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with.
And his scenes are fantastic. I mean, we get the stick fighting scene with Taylor, which is, the most action stick fighting we've seen. And then when he goes in to talk to Taylor, they had originally written that as Taylor is like sitting in her bed reading a book, and Peter DeLuise had found out that Rachel Luttrell could do splits. So he's like, okay, get rid of the book. You're going to be on your bed doing splits.
That was a little unnecessary. that just took it to a whole new level for me.
Well,
who does splits? Nobody. Okay, as a girl, okay, who used to do gymnastics and all that. Nobody does splits on their bed. Okay, that's weird.
I like that we get to see a lot. We'll get into too. We get to see a lot more of their quarters and stuff. But and every scene that Ronan has with another cast member, you're like, ooh, are they starting something there with with Taylor, or are they starting something there with Weir? Because Weir is like put on the back foot because she's this expert, negotiator, and Ronan is giving her absolutely nothing to work with. It's not like like I want this. He's like, fine, yeah, Eldrin.
Mm-hmm.
He likes
my favorite. That's my favorite scene. Where, and apparently Jason Momoa hadn't, fired a firearm before he did that scene with Shepard, but Shepard hands him a P90 and
that was great.
Empties the magazine, perfect grouping, hands him a 9mm, empties the magazine, perfect grouping, and then he pulls out his little justifier or whatever that's called like, I prefer this. Blows a perfect hole and center of mass on the target, and then we get this awesome lean in where Shepard just kind of peers through the hole and says, I could see why you would.
Yeah.
That was great.
Shepard definitely has a man crush on Ronan because he's
definitely.
Look at all this. Look what he can do. He can, he's training the other military. Like, here's how you cut someone's throat. Here's how you take someone down. And all this stuff, and you're like, I don't know, would you really just invite this random guy to start training your people? But I mean, he's kind of got that man crush. So
think about it. What did Shepard do when he had a crush on the woman that turned out to be an ancient? Right, he brought her to the base and shows her all around. He's doing the same thing with Ronan. He's like, oh my gosh, she's so cool. Like, come be part of us. And we're like,
can do.
Calm down.
Yeah. It is really funny that throughout the whole thing, Ronan comes across as just slightly bored and apathetic. Like, he's not making any effort to ingratiate himself other than just being himself. And they're basically begging him to stay because they think he's so cool.
Mm-hmm. So cool. Yeah. And it takes Taylor to kind of call him out and say, you would have left already.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so it's some really good scenes there.
Yeah. But, back to, Rodney and Cadman. just kind of the main through story on this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I love how it almost reminded me of what's that movie with Mel Gibson where he can hear people's thoughts. It's not a good movie.
What a Woman Wants.
This is
I like that movie.
This is that concept, but done better, I feel like.
Yeah. It also it had moments of Roxanne though too, where Cadman's trying to help Rodney, woo the girl. So
the Cyrano de Bergerac.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then they also reference the Steve Martin, Lily Tomlin movie, All of Me, which has a similar plot device in it, but I haven't seen that in probably 30 years. So
actually, that's two Steve Martin movies.
Yeah, Roxanne and All of Me. Yeah.
Nice.
And then, of course, the other influence was the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings, where Smeagol and Gollum are talking to each other, and they do the whole looking one way and cut to the other camera and stuff. So that was another conscious influence on this.
Okay. Yeah, I did notice that. Although it's funny, they didn't do that till halfway through the episode.
Yeah, when he starts to lose it, where the strain of having two consciousnesses in there is starting to prove too much.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't do that the whole time, but it was nice in that moment because it really emphasized the strain on them.
Mm-hmm. We get to see his date with Beckett along as the third wheel wingman, just set up totally under Cadman's control.
Oh my gosh! Okay,
Dr. Brown.
When he runs into Kate Brown, Katie or Kate, I can't remember.
Katie.
When he runs into her in the hallway and she's like, "So we're having our date tomorrow," and he's like, "Sure." You're thinking maybe postpone, maybe. I mean, this is an actual reason to postpone a date. I mean, you just feel for her. If there's anyone here who's been, I'll say, victimized in this episode, it's Dr. Katie Brown.
Well, I know they have to not tell her for the comedy of it, otherwise it wouldn't work. But wouldn't that be the first thing? It's like, everybody, McKay isn't feeling like himself, so he has another consciousness in his brain. So maybe give him some space for the next few days while we work this out.
And where's the base rumor mill? Has nobody is nobody talking about this?
Well, and Cadman and Dr. Brown play poker, right? And so they're friends, and so it seems like. Where's Lieutenant Cadman? Why didn't she come back from the mission? Well, about that,
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I agree. It made for hilarious. It was great plot, but it was just kind of funny. You're like, no. Like,
yeah.
And then when they go on the date and there's Beckett, it's like,
well, maybe they were trying to keep her disappearance like that. They in case she did end up dying, like or her body was lost or whatever. Maybe they're like they didn't want to give anyone hope that like she was going to be back or something, or like they could just say she's on a off world on a mission, and until they get a good resolution. But trying to headcanon.
I mean, realistically, he would have just been in quarantine the whole time. But
just walking around.
They don't follow any of those rules in Stargate.
Yeah,
yeah. I figured they just forgot to tell anyone. They were just so like, what are we gonna do? Like, oh, there's other people here doing stuff. What? No.
Yeah, and we get to see McKay actually make mistakes because, as we mentioned, the strain is there, and so that where they're trying to turn up the power on their ersatz transformer to get it to work, and he completely blows the circuit, and so that was kind of good to see too. He's not like Samantha Carter, who never makes mistakes, except for blowing up the
red sky. Yeah.
That one time. Yeah.
It's also nice to see Zelenka be able to take the lead on all that, because McKay is basically every time McKay is pushing that the way.
Well, but didn't McKay end up fixing it in the long run?
Yeah.
That's true.
So, I mean, Zelenka kept frying mice, so.
Oh, and the mice, the mice were originally not just supposed to be like, crispy critters, because it was supposed to be a lot more like the movie The Fly, where like the mice were supposed to be like really goopy and turned inside out and stuff. Ooh. And they realized, they had the prop guy work on it for like a week with like all these, he made little tiny mice skeletons and, and mice guts. And then they looked at it and said, no, this is too much for us. We'll just have them be like little crispy critters. Yeah.
I want to know where they're getting all these mice on Atlantis. Did they have a mouse problem, or did they bring them through the gate?
You always bring a few. It's standard procedure.
Yeah, they found them in an Atlantis lab.
Yeah. Breed them, for all the snakes that they keep.
Well, the ancients were running a lot of like, weird
experiments. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
too bad we never got an episode about the mice getting loose on Atlantis or the Daedalus or something in transit. Have like a Tribbles type episode.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been fun.
No.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like they had the entity in like one of the first episodes that was loose and needing all the energy, but I don't know if they do like a infestation episode.
I think so.
I don't remember one.
Yeah. But
I do like how basically, since they're just kind of waiting for Zelenka to figure out how to separate them, Cadman is taking it upon herself to improve McKay's rapport with women. That's like her whole focus.
Yeah.
That was fun. Like, what else has she got to do?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. You got to stay busy.
Yeah. I actually really I did look online, lots of controversy with her. He wakes up and he's naked in somebody else's quarters, and it turns out Cadman took his body over for a little exercise, which probably didn't hurt him. And, likes to sleep naked, Actually, I thought it was funny. I thought it was terribly funny. Yeah. It was done in just the right way. It could have gone wrong. But it was done in such a comedic way, and I watched it with my Gen Z, young adults, and they all loved it. They thought it was hysterical. Yeah. Like there was no objection from our house. But I can see where in this day and age, people forget that things can be just lighthearted and funny and not not everything is deep and dramatic and traumatic. So, whether it's right or wrong in real life, if this situation ever comes up in real life that someone gets another person's, brain stuck in their body, we can have this morality discussion. That's all.
Well, and eventually in universe, they do kind of go even further down that line, and it's pretty morally.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
that's different.
Do they pull like a Wonder Woman 1984?
Basically,
I haven't seen that, but
either.
No, don't watch
it. Basically, that's what they do.
But this was fun. So she got on a treadmill. Oh, boo-hoo.
His legs are sore, and he's I
guess you could argue about kissing Beckett, right? Like that might have, Did they kiss? Did she kiss? Did they kiss Katie Brown too? I can't remember.
She takes over.
Oh yeah.
They do. Yeah, she becomes a kissing bandit of Atlantis, basically.
Yeah.
So very, very passionate kiss. Basically, Rodney's losing the date essentially, and So Lieutenant Cadman asserts herself to basically prove that Rodney's interested in Dr. Brown with a very passionate kiss. Unfortunately, the one at the end with McKay and Dr. Beckett, or Cadman, McKay, and Dr. Beckett isn't as passionate, but. They wrote that scene and then they're like, oh yeah, everybody loved it. This is hilarious, but there's no way we're going to actually film it and put it in the episode, but they stuck to their guns and did it. And I think it works, and then of course what sells it is McKay's reaction afterwards where he's utterly horrified and is just like, just push a button. If I die, it can't be worse than this.
I thought it was great. Because the characters and their relationship, and you've already set this whole thing up that Cadman's in charge and she has a thing for Beckett. It just, I don't know. It's just old fashioned comedy, kind of like over the top, fun comedy to me. Like, don't take it seriously. Just,
it's a TV show. Just enjoy it.
It's a TV show.
Yeah.
It's a sci-fi show. Like, weird stuff's supposed to happen.
Just like the line during the date of, for reasons I can't explain, I have to leave right now.
Yeah.
That
was great. There was also controversy about this in that in SG-1, we have Gould and Tok'ra taking over people's minds and bodies and sharing consciousness, and that how in SG-1 it's viewed as like a really most horrible thing to have two people trapped in the same and one person takes over, one consciousness takes over, yada yada, symbiotes. And here it's funny. I'm like, oh, again,
it's a TV show.
Here it's funny because Cadman isn't like committing war crimes while she's in McKay's body. She's not committing mass murder. And as we see in the next episode of SG-1, where there's kind of the fallout from someone who's had a Gould in them. Mm-hmm. It is just a funny episode. And I'm really glad. Like I said, you could only do this in this era of sci-fi television where it's played for laughs and it works, But
I was thinking even because they have the whole thing where he goes to the therapist on board and she's the one who basically gives Cadman the idea to take control of McKay, which kind of comes back to bite her later, but that's still played for comedic effect and it doesn't become this miserable, navel gazing thing that I feel like if they did the same kind of storyline on a modern sci-fi show, it would end up just being some sort of trauma dump.
There'd be half season arc of McKay recovering from the trauma of having his body stolen or something.
Although I will say on Strange New Worlds, they did a body swap episode with Spock and T'Pring, and it was played completely for comedy and it worked well. So some shows are still trying it.
Still need to watch that show.
It's worth it.
Good.
I love that it was couples therapy and it was awesome. Because we'd seen that little clip of Cadman and Rodney interacting on the planet and it was hysterical. So it kind of, that scene of the two of them set up it just set it up perfectly. Mm-hmm. And Heitmeyer got something to do. It was nice.
The other big controversy at the time was one of the promotional photos. And if you go on Gate World, it's like the first photo for the episode you see. If you go into the image gallery, is McKay kissing Cadman. And so everybody thought that somehow that was going to happen. And then it's nowhere in the episode.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
It wasn't a scene they wrote. It just was they were goofing around and they took a picture.
Well, I think at the end, so I like the way it ends, but they had another scene at the ending where after the end where like, they're like, maybe there is something between us because we've, spent so much time with each other. And so then they kiss and they both go, nah, that sort of thing. And I'm glad they didn't, because where they ended is really good,
They wanted time alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad they didn't go for any sort of them developing feelings for each other, because them being antagonistic works so much better.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, and I do like some of the set dressing we get in Rodney's quarters. I think this is the first time we've seen his quarters, and they asked, David Hewlett, like, what would Rodney have in his quarters? And he said, he'd have a picture of himself. So we get this really cheesy picture of him receiving an award. I'm aware of this, but like the Canada arm, which was the space shuttle arm, I guess was designed and built in Canada. And so it's a point of pride for Canadians. And so one of the pictures is of the Canada arm on the space shuttle. And it says, to Rodney, thanks for giving us a hand with the arm.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Is what it says on there. Yeah. And of course, when he falls asleep, this is Peter DeLuise, I think, there's a Tim Hortons mug and a little toque, the little caps on his nightstand to show that he's Canadian.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I liked when he went to bed and he just like immediately flops down and closes his eyes. Like, like he doesn't even like get under covers or roll or move around. He's just like and he's not getting dressed for bed. He just immediately throws himself in bed, which is kind of your stereotypical nerd guy who doesn't clean up after himself. Maybe so.
He's a bachelor. It makes sense.
Yeah. I should say, I wish I could go to sleep that fast. Just
I know.
Flop and be done.
He's had a long day, so
yeah. And then in Cadman's quarter, she has photos of her family, and then I think an elliptical machine in there too. Mm-hmm. So maybe the run that she went for people weren't treated to McKay just sprinting through the hallway. David Hewlett is apparently very self-conscious of the way he runs, and so in the opening scene when he was running, he had to run us at a certain pace, and would run towards the wrong camera, and the crew he was getting very angry with the crew because he thought that they were like, I think, laughing at the way he was running or something, but I don't know. Full story there.
I have to go back and watch him run.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think of it. It's just the way they had the shot set up or something. Like he couldn't full out sprint. He had to kind of just do this really goofy run in order to run. Make the mark and stuff. But
nice.
Yeah. So, and then another nice touch is when they are rematerialized out of the dart, they're in the positions they were when they were dematerialized.
Yeah,
so
I like that they did that.
When McKay comes out, he's like full stride, and Cadman is kind of like in the pushing, McKay out of the way motion and stuff. So, yeah.
I also like that they didn't do any like cheap joke at the end where like because there's only one set of clothes between them with McKay's clothes. They didn't do any sort of awkward jokes like that. So I'm glad they kept it classy there.
Or like, why do I have blonde hair now or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or create a Tuvix or something.
Yeah.
Oh.
McKayman or something.
McCadman.
Yeah, there was no... I did like it when push came to shove, like, she acknowledged that it's his body, so she kind of is going to be the one who has to leave.
Oh, yeah.
There wasn't any sort of, like, fight there, which I like, and he was even, reticent about that.
Mm-hmm. It was a nice kind of, if you put anything serious or emotional in it, it was just a nice moment. She wasn't complaining and, angsting about it all. She's a Marine. She's very serious and, sacrifice and all that kind of stuff. And it just, I don't know, it just was a nice beat for it.
And she didn't turn evil and try to, like, take over his body, which I feel like is the direction they could have gone.
Oh.
Yeah, she runs off with Ford or But But we do get Major Lorne in this. He's only in the intro, but he gets to shoot like the little, rocket that blows up the tree.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to see them.
Job,
yeah. Good to see him like being a consistent, recurring character there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like we've gotten a lot of personality and character from him in just the short time we've seen him already. I feel like we know him.
Yeah, he's one of those good like side characters that adds a lot of depth to the world because he's consistently there and he's a consistent character. It's not just like a new guy every time.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Did we have any fun alternate language titles for this episode?
Yeah, in French, in most cases it was duet, and you would think that would be what it is in French, but no, we get a corps perdu, which means body and soul, and then in Japanese we get kyukutsu na ninjoso, which is, pardon my pronunciation there, which is cramped duet. So
I like that even better than the original title.
Yeah.
Could you imagine you're surfing through the TV guide back in the day, when you used to do that and look at the episode titles and it says cramped duet. You're like, If it was German, it just would have said like Cadman.
Yeah.
Cadman is in McKay's brain.
Yeah. Or Cadman. Something in those ways that doesn't sound bad. Yes.
Yeah.
Like Cadman and Rodney get together, become one. It's weird.
Or just Cadman / Rodney.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, did y'all have any other thoughts on this episode?
Just that I really like it, and I like whenever we get to see kind of the background scientists on Atlantis too, and really get the sense that it is an international expedition.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that flavor. The fact that like Atlantis has like this full population, and it's this kind of breathing, living colony with things happening, even when we, it's not just the main characters. There's a lot going on in the city.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot too. It was kind of nice that Shepard wasn't just front and center this whole episode, because I feel like sometimes he can kind of hog the spotlight a bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, just it was funny and fun, and it kind of makes me wish that next week we have to do SG-1 again.
But it's a nice episode.
No, I know, but like I kind of, like you said earlier, like SG-1's kind of gotten serious and new bad people and all this stuff, and this was I don't know, this was just felt like quintessential Stargate to me, so I loved it.
This is what I look for when I want to watch TV sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Before we go, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Secrets of Stargate. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Stargate and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and you can find our video versions at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. To find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. And you can email us at stargate@sqpn.com and follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on X at SQPN. And we'll be back next time with the next episode of SG-1, The Powers That Be. Until then, Jeff Haker, thank you for joining us and sharing the Secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Jack.
And Lisa Jones, thank you as well.
Thanks, Jack.
And Victor Lambs, thank you too.
Thanks, Jack. And I'm sure I do look crazy, but only because Dr. Fumbles McStupid over here was in way over his head.
Heard that one before.
Yeah.
And once again, I'm Jack Barazini. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?